I'm gonna start again. Okay, so today we'll be presenting our topic for our microeconomics class. Our organization will be the Calgary Co-op, and that's what we'll be discussing today. During our discussion, we'll cover many fundamental questions in which relates to the Calgary Co-op, the perfect competition, supply and demand, decision and cost in the short run, cost in long run, monopoly, competition analysis, monopolistic versus oligopoly oligopoly.
All right, so elasticity. The Calgary Co-op has many substitutes to many of their products in store. The new brand Cal and Gary needs to set the right price for their products or they simply won't sell great. Cal and Gary offers their own brand of large white eggs, according to the Co-op website. An 18-pack of white eggs from Cal and Gary is $8.69. And the egg brand Sparks has been around forever, sells the same 18-pack for $7.39, which is $1 less. And with local brands, generally need a little more money and a little more startup to get going. They are a little bit more inefficient and need to charge a little extra. So many Calgarians may be incentivized to buy the local eggs, but if money is tight, they will go for the cheaper eggs more often than not. And for the eggs, they can be seen as elastic, even though most people are going to buy eggs because they are a necessity. Many might not buy the local brand because they are more expensive. In conclusion, the products offered from the brand Cal and Gary are elastic and will have an inverse relationship with the price. As the price of eggs from Cal and Gary goes up, less people will buy them, but if the price drops, they will sell more frequently. All right, so the fundamental questions. With Calgary Co-op being a huge business offering all types of products and focusing on the grocery stores that are located around Calgary, many products are brought in from companies such as Kraft Dinner and Dairy Milk, which Co-op does not produce. But the new exclusive brand Cal and Gary, the brand offers all types of meat, including beef, chicken, seafood, and pork. Also, fresh produce is offered through the brand. So how does this new brand know what to produce? The brand is specifically made for Calgarians in mind, so knowing what Calgarians want is crucial to know what to make. The best thing for Cal and Gary to produce is the necessities. The brand was created during the pandemic, right in the beginning in 2020, and wants to create local products to make the co-op more self-sufficient instead of relying on outside vendors. So how are the products produced? All the products are produced in and around Calgary using local supplies. This helps protect the farmland in and around Calgary since the land is being used to produce products and not being sold for infrastructure. And for whom are the products produced for? All the products are produced with a Calgarian buying the product off the shelf in mind. The packaging also has some Calgary humor, such as the egg saying, why did Gary cross McLeod Trail? To get these eggs.
As we all know that Calgary Co-op is not a small store, it is a very big supermarket and it is a long run market because every kind of products are here. So customers prefer buying from here only because it's a very big supermarket and they buy product in bulk and also they try to sell them in bulk because they have to clear their stock very quickly due to a big stock in the inventory. As it is a well-known brand, they don't even have to advertise a lot because of this. Their cost for advertising is also very low.
Decision and cost in the short run. Implicit and explicit costs. Explicit costs are average business costs that affect a company's profitability directly, in addition to wages, rent, utilities, raw materials, and other direct costs. Implicit cost is any cost that has already occurred but is not necessarily reflected or reported separately. For example, an opportunity cost occurs when a company uses their resources for a project without compensation. The difference between normal and economic profit. Normal profit is the minimum amount of profit required by the entity for its perpetual success. Normal profit arises when the economic profit equals zero, or the break-even point, due to the difference between total revenue and total cost. Calgary Co-op Association is one of the largest retail corporations in North America. Calgary Co-op has over 440,000 members, 3,400 employees, assets of 441 million, and an annual sales of over 1 billion. Division of Labor and Law of Diminishing Returns. The law of diminishing returns states that beyond the optimal level of capacity, every additional unit of production factor will result in a minor increase in output while keeping the other production factors constant. And in a production process, as a production factor increases, the total output increases, but will reach an optimal output level before it decreases or diminishes. Production factors include labor, machine hours, and raw materials.
And there are many competitors. There are many competitors in the market, like Walmart and Safeway. That's why it is in the monopolistic competition market. Also, it may have faced the break-even or a loss in during COVID-19, but still it's holding its position in the market. Next one.
Calgary Co-op sells similar products as many supermarkets, although they have also the Calgary Co-op gas branch. The supply and demand mostly apply to the Calgary store in this part. Demand for an item now wouldn't be as great as it would have been if there was only Calgary Co-ops available to the public. But the demand is there when it comes to products that you might only see during the holidays, deals that benefits people during back to school, or food products needed in the household. Everyone must eat, whether it's fruits, drinks, vegetables, or materials such as rice, beef, and chicken. People are going to buy no matter the price, especially for some who might only eat a certain type of chicken or beef, halal or regular. They have those options. The demand comes from the location in which the Calgary Co-op store is located. You might not have a lot of people buying regular chicken, so there wouldn't be a demand for it, which could mean less regular chicken from the supplier. Making money is better than losing money. When it comes to supply, it is important to know the targeted audience and if the environments will get you the audience required. Having hundreds of Pepsis in stores without having people to sell it to is bad for business. Why? Because the company is investing money into a product when there is no demand for it. Not many people are buying it, which would then lead to the business having to sell it below the average price in the market or throw some out to gain money back. The market audience matters, since without a demand, there there will not be a need for supply more, there will not be a need to supply more than the needed amount. The perfect example to demonstrate the change in demand or supply will be during the Thanksgiving holiday. During Thanksgiving, many families tend to buy turkeys to celebrate. During that holiday season, there's a great increase in the demand of turkey. Calgary Co-op would have to supply enough turkey to meet customer needs. Because of the high demand and having the ability to supply turkey to the customer, Calgary Co-op will be able to make profit during the season. Determining prices normally comes from the number of turkeys being sold daily. The demand could also change when one type of turkey might taste better or is slightly bigger than the other, with a much lower or reasonable price range. When this happens, it forces Calgary Co-op to either increase or lower the price of the other turkey to deal with the loss of profits they would incur from the supplies that are not being used because of one specific type of product is taking all the demand from the others. This also goes the other way for supply. When there's a better product, but with shorter supply, the price tends to go higher because people would rather have the better product than wanting to get a substitute during the Thanksgiving season. The example of turkey during Thanksgiving also shows a simultaneous change in demand and supply. Since turkey is a very big topic or food product during this time, the demand for it goes up as well as the supply for it, because there are many households who are wanting to use turkey to celebrate Thanksgiving. This allows the supply and demand to remain equal during its peak as well as after the holiday season, when demand for it gradually declines. If the supply was to increase with less demand, the price normally comes down for the product, and if the demand for turkey during the time the with no supply goes up with no supply, prices tend to rise. Price price ceilings causes shortages because of the rapid change in quantity demanded and the ability to supply that product during that time. During the last couple years, we saw an increase in demand when it came to toilet papers, tissues, hand sanitizers, and masks. The demand for these products rapidly changed, and the supply in which the country and the rest of the world had at the time was minimal or close to nothing. This allowed markets such as Co-op to increase prices for the supplies in which they had in store, which ended with government officials placing a price ceiling on them. During the time when demand started to be met and everyone was able to get themselves their tissues, sanitizers, and masks, supermarkets like Co-op started to reach a price floor. This is because of the excess number of supplies in which the country was bringing in to meet the previous needs and demands of people. Many stores had to start pricing them at lower rates than the amount in which they were being bought for from the suppliers to reduce expense lost. A price floor was then put in place which allowed the excess number of supplies to be donated or even given out for free to the public. An example would be the local Tims who gave free boxes of masks to everyone who asked for one. Quotas is a government's restriction that reduces or decreases the goods in which country could import or export at any given time. Quotas allowed stores like Calgary Co-op to sell other products made from Canada, things that are not imported goods. This allowed domestic suppliers to have more of a say when deciding on how and to whom to sell their products to. These supplies could be related to homemade goods that led to higher prices for customers. The high prices come from the profits in which supermarkets like Calgary Co-op are trying to make, as well as the amount that comes from paying the suppliers.
Monopoly. What is a monopoly? A monopoly is a market condition in which a single seller of a particular commodity is called a monopolist and has complete control over the supply of his product. As a result, there are no closely competitive substitutes for the product. Therefore, the buyers have no alternative or choice. They have to either buy the product, or go without it. And there are two types of monopolies used on barriers to entry. The first is a natural monopoly where barriers to entries are more than legal bans. The other legal monopoly, which prohibits or strictly limits competition. In some cases, barriers to entry can lead to a monopoly position. In other cases, they may restrict competition to a few firms. Barriers may block access even if the firm or firms currently in the market are earning profit. In a monopoly market, a company maximizes gross profit by equalizing marginal costs with marginal income and solving the price of the product and the amount required for production. There is no competition in the monopoly market, so that the monopoly can control the price and the quantity required. Therefore, the level of output that maximizes a monopoly's profit is calculated by equating its marginal cost to its marginal revenue. Some of Calgary Co-op's biggest competitors are Walmart, Safeway, and Costco, but as big as those three competitors are, they're still not monopolies.
Moving on to imperfect competition. What is that? A lot of people ask. It's a market structure in which producers are identifiable and have some control over price. This relates to Calgary Co-op and the whole grocery store industry because there are few firms that compete against each other, and these firms have some control over the price. In perfect competition the price of goods are set by the economic factors of supply and demand. With imperfect competition, the price is controlled by the suppliers, and this is because of the inelasticity of demand. Moving on to monopolistic competition versus oligopoly. Monopolistic competition is described as a market structure where large amounts of firms produce similar, though not interchangeable products. The grocery store industry is a perfect example of monopolistic competition, and this is because of the four main characteristics that describe this market structure. First being many small firms acting independently. There are many grocery stores and different organizations that run each one. There's a Co-op, there's Safeway, Superstore, and Sobeys. All of these stores are competing against each other for the consumer's money. Second point is freedom of entry. This is an industry that would be a little bit easier to enter the market. This is because the demand for food and groceries in the world is always going to be high and stay inelastic, which means no matter the price, the consumer is still going to buy that product. Next point is products are differentiated. I will touch on this a little bit later, but the idea behind this is that every store has their own product line that they may carry. Every store will have the basic apples, bananas, but where do they differentiate themselves? The last point is each firm has some control over the price. Many stores and supermarkets have control over what they are willing to sell their products for. We know that there is some control by the firm because you will see things like promotion, rollback items, and everyday low prices. Stores do this to ensure that they have better prices than their competition, meanwhile staying profitable. The reason that we say that there's only some control over the prices is because stores and supermarkets have to get their products from somewhere, and that will cost them money. So in order to stay profitable, they must charge the consumers more than what they paid for that particular item. So what is product differentiation? It is an attempt to distinguish a firm's product from those of its competitors. This is related to Calgary Co-op because many of the brands found in the stores are local and only found in co-ops around the city. For example, Superstore has its own brand of President's Choice. The same principle applies to Co-op. They recently came out with a brand that produces everything from potato chips to bread to mustard. And this brand is called Calgary's. This branch came out in 2020, right when the world changed for everyone, and Co-op took it into their own hands to help support local, smaller businesses. By doing this, they created a brand that Calgarians can relate to. Moving on to the recommendations. For consumer recommendations, we have Calgary's. So as we talked about a few times during this presentation, the concept behind Calgary's product line is something that is valued by consumers of Co-op. The recommendation here would be for the store to continue making its product line and maybe eventually adding to it. Next, we have advertising. As we researched the company of Co-op, we found a lot of information and learned a lot about the ins and outs of the grocery store industry as a whole. The one thing that was hard to find and that was not very rich with information was the advertising strategy for Co-op. Although we hear some commercials and radio ads, the company could benefit from having more consumers hear about what they have to offer. For the business recommendations, we quickly touched on the implementation of price ceilings that were placed in this industry. From a business perspective, a recommendation is that companies should use this as an advantage. In the case of the price ceiling, there's a maximum price that a supplier can sell their product for. So if businesses use that to create new promotions and deals for certain items, it will allow for more consumers coming into the store and spending money on your products and not your competition's. Another business recommendation is to try and make Calgary's product line inelastic. This means that no matter the price of the good, the consumer will still want to buy it to an extent. They could possibly do this by finding cheaper local suppliers and also by having a Calgary's option for almost every product in the store. This would allow for people to discover brand loyalty and keep them coming in the door. That's our presentation. Thanks for watching.